Welcome to the MMHP and the 989, channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history.
Hello, Michigan music lovers. This is Scott Baker. I want to welcome you to the Michigan Music History Podcast. I am flanked by Michigan music royalty. To the left, Dr. J. To the right, Sir Fred. We cut from just around the block of the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame in Bay City, Michigan, here at Studio 163 in Essexville. And now it's time to grab a favorite beverage, hit the cruise, and take a trip back with us through Michigan's rich music history.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitsch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. And now, here's your host, Scott Baker.
Hey all, we're back with part 2 of our interview with George Heritier and Andrew Rogers, and we're going to get some more insight behind their roots music history, as well as some more music, and we are so grateful to pull them on the podcast for a mini reunion here. And in this episode, we're going to jump into some of Andrew's legendary photography history and explore where their music has taken them over the years. We want to thank you for tuning in to part 2, and without further ado, here's more of the reunion with Andrew and George. Did you come home and get any film at Band Canyon or any of those places, Andrew?
I may have. I may have taken a camera into Band Canyon once, but I can't remember exactly. Okay. I know I saw Del Shannon there play there, and I saw a couple other groups play there that were popular because that's where all the good groups came. You heard them on the radio, and they did come. They came to these small teen clubs.
Sure.
There were no big halls in those days that were hiring bands. They were going out of these teen clubs.
Yeah, and of course, once the psychedelic thing hit, then you had MC5 coming. I don't think Iggy ever played there, but
no.
I remember, a lot of the groups from Detroit coming up and playing. The Rationals played there a lot. Frost played there a lot.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Did you play there after it changed its name? From Band Canyon to the Lady.
I may have.
Yeah, that's when Kehoe sold it.
Right.
And then it kind of, I don't know, it fell out. The teen clubs, just that whole scene.
Once the drinking age changed.
Yeah, and by 68, 69, they just sort of disappeared.
Yep.
They were everywhere.
Which
and
was
then
a
they were
real shame.
The price of musicians started going up and up, and they had to have bigger and bigger halls. And the record companies got involved, and the business got bigger, and all of a sudden the little clubs couldn't afford the good bands.
Exactly.
And they were opening up big halls.
Like that. In the situation with the Byrds, they could charge maybe $2 for a ticket, and still pay the band and make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
In 1965, and 2 or 3 years later, no way.
Yep.
Yeah, it didn't happen. The money was too big.
It's moving too fast.
The whole thing changed, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it gave a great opportunity for a lot of young bands to play. And you see today, how many venues are there?
Yeah.
Like Bay City, there were, countless places every weekend you could see live music.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's basically BMOs and Scotty Sandbar, and that's it.
Well, the whole music business has changed. All musicians now have to almost pay to play. It's no more get a contract and get paid no matter what. You got to prove that you're going to bring in a crowd, and you got to guarantee this and that yourselves, and almost market yourself to get a gig. If the people don't come, the musicians get blamed.
Right, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
We've had somebody in Bay City that we're talking about was famous for that, blaming the band if people weren't in.
I can probably guess who it is.
I asked you, Andrew, if you brought your camera to those gigs. Did you ever get to bring the violin up and do some jamming?
Of course I'd take a violin and keep it in the car.
Yeah.
I wouldn't walk in with a violin. I only did that a couple of times. Siegel Schwall was playing over at the Easttown, and I'd met him and played with him over at Chessmate a couple of times. So I took a violin over to the Easttown. They're playing with it, and Snaker Ray was there, and I wanted to get on stage at the Easttown band. We were young and reckless in those days. We just walked in with our instruments and said, "Hey, we want to play." Well, he gave me the excuse that, well, you're not in the union. You can't get on stage.
Oh.
You're not in
The union. That's popped up a couple times.
I did join, George and I did join the union in Bay City, didn't we?
I was in that union 2 or 3 times.
Oh, well, here's the deal with the union in Bay City. Who was the name of the guy, the secretary, that drank the dues?
Claire Fanger.
Oh, Miss Clarence Fanger. He would charge, the dues were like $2 or $3 a year. That was nothing. But they had a clause in there that said every time a member of the union died, you had to pay another $2, $3.
And that's why I always got kicked out.
And me too. I got kicked out too. And they'd have a list. You'd get a little sheet of paper saying, these people were kicked out of the union because we never got the assessments. We'd always be on the road. I was playing a Holiday Inn one whole summer. I never got the announcements that somebody died. So eventually got kicked out of the union. So and we all knew that Clarence Fanger drank the dues. The union did nothing for us.
It was a running joke. No, they did nothing. If you didn't get paid by a club owner, they just say sorry.
Yeah.
So you go, well, why am I in the union then?
Yeah.
So you did bring did you jam with Siegel Schwal in the East?
I did. I got on stage, me and Cohen both, but I got on stage a few times when we went there and played with Sam Lay and Corky Siegel and Jim Schwal in the band. And got to know them. I still stay in contact with Corky Siegel.
I said they were up here recently.
They were, and about 4 or 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
In fact, they had a reception over at the boathouse, and we just chatted like it was old days. And
okay, and you got to hang.
I got to hang with Corky Siegel. Yeah, and I saw him about 2 years ago. He came back to the Ark and played for Madcap Peter Ruth's 70th birthday. So. I got to saw Levy and all these great harmonica players showed up.
Oh, jeez.
Corky Siegel was one of them, and I got to hang with him again.
Good. Did you ever get to bring come up here and play Band Canyon and all them too?
I don't know if I ever played the Band Canyon. It's tougher for a violin to fit in with rock and roll bands.
Yeah. True.
I discovered when I first discovered rock and roll and violins was around 1968. I saw. Peter Green show up with a band called Sea Train at one of the auditoriums in Ann Arbor, and he had a Barkus Berry pickup on his violin. I said, "Well, that's how you do it." And he proceeded to play the Orange Blossom Special with a rock and roll band, and I was floored. I said, "Wow, that's the way to do it." So I went out and found myself a Barkus Berry pickup and started playing with just muscling my way in because my heroes were not violin players at the beginning. They were all guitar players like Peter Green and Eric Clapton, and I like to play their runs on violin, and I could play them just as fast as they could play them. So I could get up on stage and fit right in with a blues band, and did as much as I could. So I played a lot of clubs where I kind of knew the musicians, and if I didn't know them that well, I'd come in anyway with a violin, and it was such a novelty. They'd say, "Well, sure," and I got to play 2-3 numbers.
Excellent.
But those were different days when you could do that. Yeah. Got to play. Me and Cole got to play at the Canterbury House with Little Feat on their very first world tour, and so we played 2 or 3 numbers up there. Got to meet all the members of the band. Lowell George, sat at his feet, and then we played the last 2 or 3 songs with him.
Wow.
And those were days when you could do that, when musicians were welcoming and allowing. We were younger than they were a little bit, and so they would pull us up, and they were very generous.
Oh, and then fantastic. We're talking about where you were going to head in the 70s after 3rd Street Bridge. Both of you, you both went your separate ways in a sense, living wise, throughout Michigan, but you maintained your contact. So where did you head, George, in the late 70s? What were you playing? What were you doing?
Actually, my wife, my future wife, Kim, and I moved to Ypsilanti so she could finish up college. And then after she finished up college in a few years, then we moved to the Detroit area, where we've been ever since.
Yeah, you just did some pickup bands or solo stuff?
I was doing solo work, and then in the mid-'90s, I just stopped because I got tired of learning songs I didn't want to sing to play places I didn't want to play.
Right on. Right on.
And I started up, 10 or 11 years ago.
Oh, wow.
What made you get back into it?
I just got the bug again.
Oh, okay.
Are you still doing those field hollers?
I still do the line and track.
Line and track.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's an old field holler that Leadbelly popularized on Alan Womack's recording.
Can you give us an example?
Give us a little taste of that.
Oh, boys, is you right? I done got it right. What I hate about a lining track, and these old balls about to bust my back, singing, oh boy, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, oh boy, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, oh boys, can you line on? See Eloise go lining track, Mariana baby sitting under the shade, thinking about the money that I ain't made, singing, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line on? See Eloise go lining track, Moses stood on the Dead Sea shore, smoting out of water with a 2x4, singing, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line on? See Eloise go lining track, if I could, I surely would, stand on a rock where Moses stood, singing, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line on? See Eloise go lining track, well I may be right and I may be wrong, but you sure gonna miss me when I'm gone, singing, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line? See Eloise go lining track, ho boys, is right? I done got it right. What I hate about a lining track, these old balls about to bust my back, singing, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line? Shack-a-lack-a, ho boys, can you line? See Eloise go line.
Oh,
Man,
Used to love those.
yeah.
that's pre-Steven Tyler for you Aerosmith fans. I know a little bit of that one.
Taj Mahal did that too.
Taj Mahal.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Reminds me of Taj Mahal.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
But George does it better.
Oh, that's
yeah.
that.
Nobody
you're-
does it better than
I'm so
That's
glad you're still
fantastic.
playing, George.
Really.
I tell you right now, your voice is the one that needs to be out there. That is a voice that touches souls immediately. I mean, when Larry sings, I mean, we've had some guys here that just touch the world. Your voice is one of those, man. You have a magical voice, sir. That was awesome.
Thanks, man. I love you, man.
Yeah. I'll second that. That was
That was wow.
Thank you, kindly.
Ooh, so you guys were moving on. You were doing your solo gigs, and did you do a recording in that time period? Did you do home demos or anything, or just did your own thing?
I did one demo in the early '90s that I used for to get a few gigs, and then it just kind of all went away until I started playing again about 10 years ago.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
Well, you Andrew, what made you? Did you maintain your just to go out playing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I played with a lot of different people. Started doing a little recording with Pat and Sandy McGuinn back in the, let's see, early 70s.
Yeah.
We played once at the Holland Dozier Holland Studios and did a demo recording there. No, nothing much happened to it, but I got inside the studio, and that's another story. That was quite a day. And the next day I was in the hospital with mononucleosis.
Oh man!
But I did, and then the recordings I did with the Gilmore Brothers are out for the public. I never did put out a solo record, but I played backup on a number of pieces. I've done some work recently with Andy Reid and some of the people he brings in. So I've added typical violin parts to ballads and to some rock and roll, but mostly ballads and country-styled stuff. And lately with Crazy Chestur, I did. We've made one record, and I was on the tail end of that recording, so I'm only on one cut on their record, but we've been playing together for about 7 years.
You can get that at our sponsor, Electric Kitsch. They carry the Crazy Chestur album over there.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely hooking
Harvest
up.
Party, yes.
Harvest Party. Okay. Your guys have played periodically. You finally made a gig here in the COVID era.
Yes.
At Rubbles in Mount
Took
Pleasant?
a stab at Rubbles, and we did play once outdoors, I believe, and we just got to be very careful. That's the problem. For me, I have to be especially careful because I have little grandchildren, and I just don't want to, even if I make it through, I don't want to pass it along to everybody. So anybody. So I'm trying to stay careful.
You can't be too careful right now.
No, that's for sure, especially with the new variant out there threatening us.
Yeah. I remember when I first met you, Andy. It was on my third album. I have 5 out right now. We're making the 6th one. But you came over when I was living on 10th Street at the time to my little studio. Andy Reid told me you gotta get Andy for this, and I don't really know him, but I've heard of him. And he pops over one night, cut his track, and we I remember there's a couple songs, maybe one, maybe two, because I put some effects on them. We had a good time, though. Finally got to meet each other, and then finally got to meet George. I got invited down to do a Grateful Dead evening with some Detroit friends, and I look at the bill, and George Heritier's on it. It's like, well, he's a Bay City guy, I mean, there's 2 Bay City cats going to be in the house at this gig.
Yeah.
So here we are trading Grateful Dead harmonies and having a good old jam throwdown with 100 phones up in the air taping us that night. And
drinking really good beer.
Yeah. What a wonderful, magical evening with Billy Brandt and Chris Ignore. And
yep.
We're going to try to do that again. We talked, that was one magical night where we all want to do something together. But
where did you do this?
A little place in Ferndale, a brew pub called M Brew.
Okay.
So,
Chris had
it was not a big place.
No, it's 2 stories. We were upstairs.
Yeah, we were upstairs, all crowded around a fireplace that wasn't ablaze because it was warm out.
Yeah, it was August it was October. Early October, I think.
It was still pretty nice.
Yeah, it was beautiful that night because we were all on the deck bullshitting and getting to know each other. Yeah. And then I remember coming home and I was firing off emails like, we got to do some songs, you guys, all of us. I'll use my studio, whatever we got to do. If I can I know you might come home once in a while. And Chris was really hot on it at the time talking. And Billy Brandt says, hey, I loved it. So we all have talked about it. And then come January, that stopped everything. February, March, COVID of last year.
Came COVID.
Yeah. Wow. So needless to say, we've been sitting on the fence since then, but this is wonderful to have you guys all back.
Without a doubt. Have you been playing many gigs in the COVID era at all, George?
No, I played one private gig in September of 2020. I played one gig at Michigan by the Bottle Tasting Room in Auburn Hills in September of 2021. I've got one booking in February that I'm watching how things go really closely, and if it doesn't look safe, I will cancel.
Yeah,
I'll give them plenty of notice, but
yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
What's going to happen this winter.
Yeah.
Look at my last 2 shows this week. My last 2 shows were canceled, and I know.
Yeah, I saw that.
One of them was I was just too close to someone, and another one was, I believe, sickness, but it could have been tied in. And it's like, that's 2 that just got pulled out from under me and I've been tested just to try it, make sure I'm cool and all is well. But shit, here they are. They're starting to fall here in November, or in late November. We're into December now, and it's getting as crazy as it was when we were going back last November on the second downfall. It's like,
well, this summer, no one was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Andrew
said when he was playing Rebels, he said he was hiding in the back.
I used to play right front and center in the middle of right in the front of the stage and loved it, but it scared the crap out of me to go back into a bar, which I just don't do, and play a gig. And so instead of being out front and center, I just got back against the wall behind the bass player with the mask on. Since I don't have to sing, I kept the mask on all night, and it was. I just had to be very, very careful.
Yeah,
no one there had a mask.
I've been to 2 shows in the last 4 or 5 months, and it was really disconcerting to see that almost no one in the audience had masks on. I was one of the few.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Scott, as you know, I used to have tickets to Michigan games, and those were my seats.
They were wonderful.
For 24 years. And my sister and I loved sitting there in section 37, row B, for years and years and years. But I can't believe that there's 109,000 people over there, and 108,000 of them don't have masks on.
Yeah, you are like a sardine at the big house.
It's true, and I went down and got to enjoy one of those seats this year, masked up. And holy crow, you had some of the best seats I've ever seen in a football game.
They're different. It's not like they're on the 50-yard line, but you're right there, and you can see their eyeballs when they catch that ball.
Yeah.
It's thrilling.
But having all those people was, I'm with my daughter, and we're kids, all right. We're hugging, we're tight. And we've got people right next to you there.
Well, I cherish those years. It was fun walking in, walking out, and it was a very exciting time on game day. So I'm glad you got to enjoy it.
Well, thank you. I do want to ask you guys, did you record any home demos throughout the 80s into the 90s, Andy? I never did ask you that. Was there, do you have a back pile of music waiting to come out, or?
I have only this album I did with Andy Cohen. We've played together since the early 70s, and so Cohen and I are talking about putting an album out. And the problem is all the stuff that we used to do together, he's recorded already. So I said, Cohen, come on, let's find some new stuff to do. We've been working awful hard to try and find decent material that we can both highlight each other on, and it's tough. He wants me to make a fiddle album, and the fiddle tunes that I play with him are pretty standard stuff right now. So I want to find some really good, some better material to play, and get him to play some more of his blues stuff, and let me back him up like we did in the old days. So we've got some stuff in the can. I've done a few Irish tunes with Cohen. Cohen could do Irish tunes. We played a French waltz, which was really pretty, and him playing piano, La Valse Joyeuse. And so we've got that in the can.
Good.
And Crazy Chestur, I think, is going to probably do another recording someday. So.
And you also play, every Tuesday night in town here?
Well, I used to play in a session on Tuesday nights, but it's been tougher for me to go into Tavern 101 right now because I don't see a lot of masks in there. And
what's the name of that collective that you guys did? Because I see that picture pop up every Wednesday after it happens. I know you were down there for one recently.
For once in a while, it's Whiskey and Water, which I played with Jerry Casalt.
And it's all rootsy,
all session music. It's supposed to be a typical Irish session, but
John Petrikis is down there.
I couldn't do it, and actually, then some of my rehearsals for Crazy Chestur came up for the same Tuesday night. So
Vicky Vader, I've seen a lot of them.
And I can tell you off camera more, but it's tough for me to go in there right now.
Okay. They moved it there from.
I got them in there.
Okay.
Basically, it's a great place to play. It's in that corner in there. Well, they wanted it to be downtown, and I think people should go experience it if they want to hear people singing and hearing traditional music, more or less traditional music.
Right.
The people that go love to sing, and they love to play the tunes, and it's much different than what you're going to see in a typical bar, and you don't have a TV screen right next to you. That was the best thing about the Steinhaus, where we played for years and years, is there were no TV screens. And that helps when you're trying to play traditional music. You get the attention of the people.
Right.
But the songs alone are so different. You get the crowd in the room to sing along with you, and that's the best part.
I love the photos that come out of there because it's a table in a circle for a mile with people behind them. Everybody's singing and playing, and you can see that they are. And it still goes on.
You get 3-4 fiddlers playing together. It's really, really fun. So I enjoyed doing that.
That's cool.
But
speaking of fiddlers, I seem to remember we lost Bruce, right?
We did lose Bruce McCartney.
Yeah.
And
I was really sad to see that.
I played for him, went to see him in Midland the day before he died, and played for him, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And then shortly afterwards, they pumped up the morphine a little bit. They had kept him around just long enough to see some of his friends, and then he had to go. Poor guy died too young.
Yeah,
he was a good fiddler too.
He was.
Everybody liked Bruce, and he was part of the heart and soul of our session that played on Tuesday nights. He really was a big part of it. So I miss him terribly.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitsch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. They offer new and used records, including local to Michigan original vinyl and CDs, as well as clothing, electronic equipment, funky household items, music gear, and stringed instrument repair. You can find them on the web or call 989-402-1411.
Well, with that, you guys both have projects, and you're out working again as soon as possible, and there's always something in the works. You both are creative and active still. I I want to tell the people that listen to our podcast, you are going to be able to track these guys down on Facebook or their bands like Crazy Chester, see the events. George is active in the Detroit area. You will see them come around to festivals when the time comes. We are so grateful to have both of you here. Can we hear one more tune before we cast off tonight?
You want to give them the last chance before we go, or you want to get something else in mind?
It's been a long time since I've done the last chance. I don't know if I can remember.
How about you know what? You turned me on to Jimmy Rogers, the singing brakeman. And I think it was through a Merle Haggard album.
Yes, that was a great album.
I know, I love that album. You still do any of those Merle songs? I mean, the Jimmy Rogers songs and that Merle did? Waiting on a Train or any of those?
Don't Let Your Deal Go Down.
Yeah, I mean, that was some great stuff.
Oh, man.
Well,
Boy, the headphones is really strange. What do you got up your sleeve?
what do you got up your sleeve?
Yeah. What's that in the road? A hat?
Well, I love the women. I love them all the same. I love the women. I love them all the same. But I don't love nobody well enough to change her name. Because the women make a fool out of me. Play, Andy. Let me tell you, mama, something that you don't know. Let me tell you, mama, some good gal that you don't know. Well, I'm a do-right papa. I got a home everywhere I go. How about the women, they make a fool out of me. Well, I love the women. I love them all the same. I love the women. I love them all the same. But I don't love nobody well enough to change her name. Because the women, they make a fool out of me.
Yeah. George Heritier, Andy Rogers, channeling Jimmy Rogers. You know, that song's probably, well, it's got to be close to 100 years old.
Yeah.
And it still sounds great.
Incredible.
Yeah, Jimmy Rogers, man. Woo.
I love all those old songs.
I do too, and he was so good. And
he
you know,
died so
working
young.
with Louis Armstrong, Blue Yodel. Oh, jeez. Wow. Terrific stuff.
Hey, Fred, you got any questions left that you haven't asked?
No, I think most of them have been answered.
And you were there for most of it, too, so that's pretty
I
cool.
was there for some of it.
Yeah.
Well, the immortal recording of
Andy and I and
Yeah.
John
Great song.
Colhut, we used to play a lot.
Yeah. And we all used to jam together.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
John, I really can't remember.
Good one.
Pretty good imitation.
Well, I thank you too. This podcast was very difficult to put together in our times, and it was also very rewarding to attempt this. And I think it's gonna go out to the ears when this comes out in January, February. It's going to be a huge thing because this is historic Michigan, right here. This is roots where it came from. This roots took us all around the state and beyond, and you guys are still carrying on to this day. So I, from the bottom of my heart, Andrew and George, thank you so much for
thanks guys. It was terrific.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
And thank you, Mike Beatty, over there for videotaping. And we will, of course, invite these fellas back because I know they're going to say, "Oh, I forgot to say something," because most people do down the line, and when that time comes, it will come. But
especially when you get to our age,
just to hear some more of these songs.
Just to hear singing, just to have a podcast night of songs. Yeah,
terrific.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, and the Electric Kitsch at electrickitch.com.
This podcast wouldn't be here without special help from Studio 163's Alan Garcia, our podcast videographer and wingman, Mr. Mike Beatty, MMHP tagline specialist, Mr. Eddie Switek, and of course, Gary Johnson, Fred Rife, the Electric Kitsch, and all of our special guests, and especially you listeners. We want to thank you.
You've been listening to the MMHP and the 989. From all of us at the podcast, we want to thank you for tuning in.
The Rebels we played that time with Andy Cohen.
Yes, it is.